Welcome back. So today we've got Jordan Peterson. That's who we're reading today. And so if you are new to the channel, please go watch my 5-minute crash course video. It's going to be in the description box down below. So again, if you're new, pause this, go watch that, but that gives you sort of a basic overview and foundational ideas for face reading, and I strongly encourage you to watch that first. So that being said, Jordan Peterson, if you see me looking over here, it's just me looking at this tiled mosaic that I make for all the people I read. So I'm going to go back and forth so that I'm connecting with you all and watching the video here. But Jordan Peterson came to prominence in, I think, 2016, and it was around compelled speech. That was the issue that he had a problem with, and it was in Canada about trans people wanting pronouns, the use of pronouns being legislated. And Jordan Peterson made his case many times over. It's not about something against trans people. He said he doesn't want the government compelling his speech and saying, that I have to say this, and if I don't say these words, I can be imprisoned or jailed, because he thought that was a very slippery slope and opened the door to a lot of government overreach. So he's a very prominent figure in the quote-unquote culture wars. He's a Jungian psychologist by trade. He's definitely intellectual, very smart guy. I like his ideas personally, but I'm not here to sway people one way or the other. That's not what this is about. I really do my best to stay neutral and just read the features that I see in relation to face reading theory. So keep this in mind. As I talk about these people and I say things, and I'm going to say things like, this points to this, I'm not speaking in absolutes. I don't want any of you watching this to think that I am putting myself in the spectrum of psychic fortune telling. That's not what this is. I want to distance myself from that. Face reading theory is about pattern recognition. There's things that face reading theory says, there's some consistencies that we see across people in terms of their face shapes. And so what I try to do is find the congruencies, find the places where that's the same, and there are always exceptions to the rule, but please, as I talk about these things, don't take them literally. Art, face reading is an art for sure. It's an intuitive process, and there's gonna be things that deviate, and there's always exceptions to the rule. So that being said, the first thing I notice when I look at Jordan Peterson's face is this rectangular shape. So if you go back to my last face reading of Russell Brand, I talk about this shape as well. The rectangle shape relates to the wood element, and the wood element is the liver. It's the liver and the gallbladder system, but it relates to the general in terms of archetypes. So that means the people that are authoritative to a degree in terms of their ideas, they're willing to speak their mind unabashedly and unapologetically. This is usually with wood people, and he's got a rectangular face. So that means his framing of his life to a degree, there's going to be some thread of that according to theory. So he's got this rectangular shape. And the other thing I notice about him is he's got this broad forehead. So in Chinese medicine, the forehead relates to two primary things. The 20s, the face has different age correlations. The 20s relate to the forehead, the 30s are the eyes, the 40s is the nose, and then it goes down up into 100 years old through the jaw. So the age kind of goes down and across. So his forehead is broad. So according to theory, when they say people with a broad forehead, that means broad thinking, broad mind. And if you listen to his lectures, everything from biblical things, he makes commentary on politics, very rangy, as does Russell Brand. So some similarities there. Big open forehead, big open mind. Now, one of the things I noticed, and someone had asked in the comment section, was about plastic surgery, the altering of one's face. What's that mean in terms of face reading? Yeah, it's going to change the reading. And if people have had plastic surgery, I like to know before reading, and I ask for photos of before the plastic surgery so I can read them. I'm going to be doing Joe Biden pretty soon as well. He's had a lot of plastic surgery, and his face looks very different than it did 15 years ago. So people like Michael Jackson, who I'll eventually read as well, plastic surgery can really change the disposition of a face, and in turn, in theory, how they navigate their life. So Jordan Peterson has had hair transplants. And if you look at this picture here, his widow's peak was his natural hairline. His hair actually receded a bit more, and now with his hair transplant, he has a more straight line across. The straight line across is a bit more yang. When you see that widow's peak in the yin-yang spectrum, it's more yin. So yin relates to depth, the watery, cool nature of life, and collectively, in theory, that widow's peak points to people who are willing to dive deep with their ideas. It's a water element trait of sorts. So in any case, when a person does get augmentation, they change their look. In theory, right, it can change their life path a little bit if you want to go down that road, if you subscribe to that idea. But from the external world, we're all reading faces. We all do this. And I always say, if you're going to leave your kid with someone in an emergency, you're going to be scanning the faces of who do you trust, and you're going to be going with your gut. So we all do this, and in theory, when we see a face, the shape, it's going to subconsciously impact how we think about the person. So, take it for what it is, but something to think about. He has had that shift. The other thing I notice about Jordan Peterson is the countenance of his face. There's a sadness to his face. There's a sorrow to a certain degree, and he's self-admittedly a very serious person, but I think this points to the nature versus nurture component. If you listen to Jordan Peterson, he has studied the atrocities and the dark side of man for a very long time, the effects of communism, socialism. He's looked at the atrocities and some of the big heavy hitters like the Nazis and Mao and Stalin and these very oppressive, tyrannical regimes throughout history. And when you study that kind of thing, it's going to have an impact. It just does. The benefit is when you study the dark, you integrate the light, and vice versa. As your light grows, so does your shadow, but they need to be integrated. He's got lots of talks around this, around Jungian psychology. But I think part of that sorrow comes from what he is taking in as well. And that's just the way it goes, but it's also given him a lot of insight. So when you integrate the shadow and you look at the darkness of humanity, it's a good thing, technically. It's just difficult to do. You understand yourself and humanity better. Now, the other piece here is he's got some sorrow lines. So when we look at what they call the crow's feet, which my teacher, Lillian Bridges, my late teacher, she hated that phrase. These are joy lines in face reading. So when people have these, it's a person who expresses well, person who lives life and enjoys life. So he has these when he smiles, but when you see the lines dip into the cheek like this, it's like the sadness has been carved into the body and into the spirit. So he has these lines, and he battled depression for many, many, many years and was taking antidepressants for a long time. And just a few years back had a really intense health scare. And he has reversed all of that through the carnivore diet. That's an interesting YouTube deep dive real quick. Go watch Jordan Peterson talk about the carnivore diet and all of the health benefits he gained from it and how he reversed his arthritis and his depression. So he does follow suit though, right? The sadness lines show up on him. Again, the theory and his life terrain do add up. Now, quick little note here. I have a picture of Olivia Wilde and Jordan Peterson. They had a very public, contentious conflict a while back. I can't remember exactly what she said about him, but it wasn't pleasant. It bothered him. And we see this with people's faces. Olivia Wilde has a metallic face, big, wide, open spaces with this kind of square countenance. Jordan Peterson is wood. In the 5-element cycle, metal destroys wood. So just like an axe chopping wood, right? Metal destroys wood. And in this case, a metallic face will destroy a wood face. So this is not an exact science. There's never a steadfast rule. People with square faces and rectangular faces get along, but it is an elemental conflict in theory that you want to pay attention to. So when they had this debate and I saw their faces, I was like, she's metal, he's wood, and she was chopping him down. So kind of a cool side note on that. Now, one of the things I noticed about Jordan Peterson when I was putting these pictures together it's a leaking of health. And where we see that is in the cheeks. So the face is indicative of organ function as well. So colorations on the face, blotches, indentations, changes in coloring over the periods of days, weeks, or months, these are things to track. So he has this blotchy sort of discoloration that shows up on his cheeks sometimes. And the way Chinese medicine looks at this is internalized heat, specifically residing around the heart and lungs. And the cheeks also relate to our overall immune response. Jordan Peterson, if you do research on him, serious autoimmune problems. Part of why he went to the carnivore diet. His daughter as well, Michaela, very real autoimmune issues. And so when we see these red blotchy things show up, it's sort of like heat in the immune system, inflammatory responses in the immune system. Now, in a lot of pictures, he doesn't have this, but it has improved over the years. And the more inflamed he was, if you go back many years, he had more of that flushed color. Now, yes, people can get flushed from drinking. They can do all kinds of things. Again, please don't think of this as an exact science, but in terms of his long-term health and this internalized heat in the immune response, it looks like he's carrying it. Now, the other thing he has are these checked eyebrows. So in the context of face reading, these are what they call action eyebrows. And all that really means is that once a person like this with this feature has made their mind up, they're going to act quickly. They're going to move quickly. So the last little piece here we're going to look at is his mirrored face dynamics. So you can see the natural face in the middle. His public persona is on the left side. His introverted or interpersonal nature is on the right side. So if you look at his left side, broader features, more open forehead with a softer jaw, a smaller chin. So his face, wider features in general, usually point to an open disposition. So you can kind of see this. He's gotten a lot of attention and people are wanting to talk to him. But what I say is, if this is the person you meet on the left at face value, and then when you start talking and debating, you're going to see the guy on the right. Jordan Peterson can stand his own in a debate. He's one of the best debaters I've ever seen. And you see this general-like, very rectangular, strong-chinned, narrow-eyed man on the right. And that's the guy you're dealing with when you get into a debate. He looks serious. He looks like he's willing to really put his, choice words forward and not think twice about it. So these are the key things that I see with Jordan Peterson. Again, these readings are short. I'm taking the strongest features, the things that leap out the most, but there are lots of things, I could go on about, and I'm seeing one right now, so I'm going to add one more thing. He does have what they call liver lines, these wrinkled, furrowed things in the middle, and that points to a strong liver. And if those lines are really deeply grooved and they never disappear and they're really prominent, that means usually anger is not regulated well in their life. He doesn't have that, but you can see this furrowed thing that happens when he is talking. And when they say that, again, that's the active general archetype in the person's disposition. So hope you guys like this reading. If you got questions, feel free to put them below. And if you'd like a reading, go to my website, omnihealthandlifestyle.com, go to my contact section and reach out to me, and I'm happy to do a reading for you. And if there's other people that you would like me to read, please let me know. Thanks.